News! Okay, we'll start with this. Upon the fight's collapse, the fight between Mikaela Mayer and Christina Linardatou, Christina, the two-time former WBO super lightweight champion, posted this to her social media. What a great comeback for me. Not allowed to fight after all those fights at the same condition. 9 months of doing nothing, 2 of them on bed due to pregnancy complications. The beginning was pretty hard because of the cesarean. Worked so hard to find myself again, and the fight is over. There's a legitimate question there as to whether or not Christina Linardatou will ever be allowed to box in the United Kingdom moving forward. Christina Linardatou, who says, "I won't give up. I'm not surrender. I'm in the best condition of my life and I'm here to stay." Mikaela Mayer was very lucky because I was about to end her career. No matter what, that makes me even stronger. Wish both ladies a great fight tonight. I will be back. The fight with Mikaela was supposed to be at 135 pounds, though more often than not, Christina campaigns at 140. That's where Chantel Cameron reigns as that division's undisputed champion, and that's where Katie Taylor means to challenge her for all those belts. You have to figure that if the BBBOC would not license Christina to box on the premise of a permanent lens she has in one of her eyes. Bear in mind, she's boxed with that same lens her entire career, including the Katie Taylor fight that happened in the United Kingdom. BBBOC won't license her. Can she get a boxing license anywhere else? She got one in her native Greece for her last fight. Can she get one in America? It just so happens that Boxing Insider and Lou DiBella, who's had some dealings with Christina Linardatou, at least in the past, they're going to be staging a show here in the States at the end of this month very soon. April 27th, what is to be the Miyo Yoshida versus India Smith fight. Boxing Insider returns for its 4th promotion in 6 months with Broadway Boxing, a card full of local and international talent to be streamed globally on DAZN. I'm not proposing that Christina Linardatou get a slot on that show, though with some doing it could be possible. Anything's possible, though that's not necessarily what I'm proposing. What I'm proposing is that Christina end up on a slot in a show just like this one, moving forward, a Broadway boxing show. Can Lou DiBella pull some strings to bring Christina to America and let her fight on a Broadway boxing show that may or may not be shown on the DAZN platform? Because Christina really is one of the better, more entertaining fighters anywhere at or around this weight. You have to wonder if Lou DiBella can't pull some strings for Christina Linardatou to get her on one of these shows, or will the situation with the BBBOC that played out this weekend, will it have a trickle-down effect? Because the BBBOC, that's one of the bigger, more major commissions in the sport, tantamount to the California State Athletic Commission, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, the New York State Athletic Commission. Is this going to have a trickle-down effect with the other commissions around the world to where Christina can't get a license to box on the premise that the BBBOC wouldn't give her one? Questions that need answers. Christina Linardatou is coming off of 2 consecutive wins. She's not too old. She's in her mid-30s. She's not too old to keep fighting. And, now that things aren't happening with Mikaela, is she actually free to resume her career? Is she free to obtain a boxing license with some other commission in some other part of the world? Because she wasted a whole camp on this. And I don't know that the BBBOC themselves or anyone is going to compensate her for time wasted. Hours spent in preparation for a fight that the BBBOC wouldn't let her have. I don't know. The only silver lining would be if Christina is allowed to resume her career elsewhere in the world without issue, though this still is an issue because the reigning undisputed champion at this weight is Chantel Cameron, a UK fighter. Whether she beats Katie or Katie beats her, it's the kind of deal to where you may have to go through the BBBOC to get one of them in the ring. You look at 147 pounds. Well, Jessica McCaskill, at least for the time being, is still the woman to beat at 147. She's supposed to be fighting her mandatory challenger by way of more than one alphabet organization, Croatia's own Ivana Habazin. Jessica McCaskill, she is an American fighter based out of Chicago. Newly vacated WBO title will be on the line in the upcoming Sandy Ryan versus Marie-Pierre Huel fight. And Sandy's based out of the UK. I like Sandy's chances in that fight. I think she's going to win a points decision. I think she's going to become WBO champion. If she does, and Christina's in the market for a fight with her, she'd have to go to the UK in all likelihood. She'd have to once again deal with the BBBOC. So what are they going to do about that lens situation? She wasn't allowed to box on the premise of a permanent lens in one of her eyes. I can only assume that there must be damage to it. something along those lines. Can it be corrected? Will Christina be allowed to resume her boxing career? These are questions that need answers.
I just want to say Frank Warren was telling a lot of after my fight with Zhang. He talked a lot of On my worst night, I beat Zhang, and he came to London and destroyed your fighter in 6th round. I destroyed Daniel Dubois in sparring, and now his fighter got beat by the fighter who I beat. So what he want to say right now? I want to ask him one question. Why he producing only a hype jobs? What about that? I'll come to Beijing. I beat him in front of 1 billion of Chinese people. What about that? I'm animal, man. Look, I swear with my father's name, and my father passed away. I swear with my father's name that I'll go to China and I'll knock him out. You know, on my worst night, I beat that guy, and on my best night, he's not going past the 6 rounds.
Very disgruntled Philippe Hrgovic, who took last night's upset as an opportunity to take a shot at Frank Warren.
He says all of Frank's fighters are hype jobs. He said he smacked up Daniel Dubois in sparring, and what yesterday's contest proved is that Joe is a hype job as well.
I don't agree with that, I don't. I think Joe Joyce's body of work, up until this point, has proven that he is a world-class fighter. He's just not perfect, though in truth, no fighter is.
Not Joe Joyce and not Zhilei Zhang. I didn't forget how Zhang looked opposite the ring. Jerry Forrest, the journeyman, he went life or death with.
It's quite possible to think that both Zhilei Zhang, Joe Joyce, and Philippe Hrgovic.
It's not outside the realm of possibility that they're all good fighters. They're all solid fighters. They all come from similar amateur backgrounds. They're all Olympians.
They all medaled in the Olympics, you know.
It's possible that they're all good fighters.
I think it would be a gross oversight to look at yesterday's contest and its outcome and come to the conclusion that Joe Joyce is just a hype job, that he's really no good, that he's just the byproduct of creative matchmaking. No, Joe Joyce has a more solid resume than Philippe Hrgovic. If you think about it, Bryant Jennings, a former champion in Bermain-Stavern, and Joseph Parker, a seasoned journeyman in Carlos Takam,
and Christian Hammer,
an unbeaten up-and-comer in Daniel Dubois. In spite of Joe Joyce suffering his first professional loss yesterday, I'm not prepared to say that he's some hype job and that all the success that he's had is the byproduct of smoke and mirrors. For God's sake, he's got a better resume than Philippe.
So I think the saving grace for Philippe is that opposite the ring Zhilei Zhang, he actually did perform better than Joe Joyce did. He was in that fight with Zhang a lot more than Joe was.
He was, and he managed to go the distance with Zhang where Joe Joyce could not. I don't necessarily think it's fair to say here today that Joe Joyce is just a hype job. Oh, hype jobs in boxing. There are some.
There are.
I just wouldn't say that about Joe. Perhaps Daniel Dubois, whose hype leading up to the Joe Joyce fight had many of us believing that he could beat Smokin' Joe, that he would beat that guy, and he didn't. And so far, he's not
living up to our expectations.
Not based on what they were. The same Daniel Dubois that Philippe Hrgovic claims he slapped up in sparring.
He wants to run it back with Zhang.
Says he's willing to go to Beijing to do it, in spite of being gifted a decision in the Zhang fight. Underneath it all, you can see that Philippe Hrgovic knows there's unfinished business there, though I don't know that he'll get to finish it in the near future because it's my understanding that Frank Warren has options on Zhilei Zhang.
Philippe's over there on the matchroom side of things, whereas Zhang may be with Queensberry for the foreseeable future.
So I'm not quite sure we're going to see that rematch between Philippe Hrgovic and Zhilei Zhang in the immediate future. Maybe sometime down the line, but I don't know about straight away.
Truthfully, I don't know what the future holds for Zhang.
The immediate future, as Joe Joyce reveals, he may take an interim fight before a Zhilei Zhang rematch.
I'm not surprised.
I said it in my previous video. Pressure fighters like Joe Joyce stay pressure fighters through and through. They stay in character. They don't change much in between fights.
You fight this guy straight away, the second fight might go the same way the first one did.
For the same reason, Joe Joyce, who's 37, reveals that he may take an interim fight before a rematch with Zhang. We're going to discuss it, Joyce said to BBC Sport.
You know, Dillian White was there, and I have no doubts he was there on the premise that Joe Joyce won because there's a lot of money. Could be a lot of money in a Joyce versus White fight.
I could have one in between between, I'm just going to decide. I'm going to have some time off and reflect and watch the tape back and see where I went wrong. Despite the gruesome swelling, Joyce explained that his vision was not impaired in the eye.
Post-fight reports indicated that in spite of the gruesome swelling, Joyce did not suffer an orbital fracture akin to the orbital fractures that we saw in the Kell Brook fight, the Yordenis Ugas fight. Those guys had some pretty bad swelling too, just like Joe.
Caused by a southpaw, the same way that Joe's swelling was caused by a southpaw. I've had my loss, but I'll be back, Joyce stated. The journey will continue. I can still see through the eye. I think it's just bruised. It's a formality to go to the hospital now to check it's not fractured or anything. It looks like I've got a Terminator eye now. It's unfortunate, but I'll be back. I thought I was doing well in there. I couldn't get away from his straight left. He kept on nailing me in the eye, and it swelled up my eye.
Joyce isn't all of a sudden a crappy fighter because Zhilei Zhang was able to use his defensive deficiencies against him, because not everyone is big enough and durable enough, accurate enough.
It takes a unique set of ingredients to do to Joe what Zhilei Zhang did to Joe. Zhilei Zhang, who's eye level to Joyce, he's no small fry. He's tall enough and long enough to catch him on the way in.
Durable enough to weather the punches on the arms and gloves, play a bit of catch and shoot, and because he's a southpaw...
Because Joe's no defensive wizard, he doesn't keep his head off the line.
It's perfect storm.
Not everybody's gonna have that same luck with Joe. In fact, not everybody has. Zhilei Zhang, he brought it.
Don't call him Big Bang Zhang for nothing.
If Joyce decides to forego a Zhilei Zhang rematch for in-between fight with a Dillian White, for example, a cash fight, the question then becomes, who does Zhilei Zhang fight? He may be in line to fight for the WBO title, but he's not next in the queue.
Daniel Dubois is, and Philippe Hrgovic after him.
So who does Zhang fight in the mean in-between time? Zhilei Zhang, who's not getting any younger. What's he, 39 years old? I'm sure he'd like to be in a big fight, another big fight, sooner rather than later. What can Frank offer him?
It's a legitimate question.
For Frank Warren and Zhilei Zhang, it's going to need an answer.
Time is a luxury that Zhang doesn't have. He's pushing 40.
He's made a bit of a reputation for himself as being a bit of a boogeyman by exposing boogeymen. Philippe Hrgovic was a boogeyman till he shared the ring with Zhilei Zhang, as was Joyce up until recently.
That boogeyman reputation in the sport of boxing, it's a bit of a gift and a curse.
What you have to remember is that nobody's perfect.
So you can imagine Zhang's riding high,
saying that the next step for me is to fight for a world title.
So he could be a ways out from that.
Don't get the sense that Dillian White is going to want to share the ring with Zhilei Zhang coming off a win when he could end up making more money fighting Joyce, who's coming off a loss.
Derek Chisora, who's determined to end his career with brain damage, he threw his name into the hat.
We'll see. Zhang said, today belongs to me. It belongs to everyone who showed up. It belongs to every Chinese person who showed up today. I'm 39 years old, but I'm disciplined. I trained hard. The next step is for me to fight for a world title. Zhang bounces back after losing a controversial 12-round decision at the hands of Philippe Hrgovic in their IBF final eliminator.
Most people don't really believe that Zhang lost that fight. Even I don't believe that Zhang lost that fight. I picked Philippe Hrgovic to win it.
The judges gave it to him, though it's hard to say that he earned that decision legitimately.
A lot is being made of the kind of viewership that this fight got in China. An approximate 13 to 14 million views, 14 million homes in China. Astronomical numbers for a boxing match. The kind of...
You almost never see numbers like that here in the West. For a boxing match? You don't see numbers like that here in America. You certainly don't, and you don't see them in the UK either.
And the UK boxing market is a far more fertile market for boxing than the American one, though all the same. You don't see numbers like that here.
Not America and not the UK. Zhilei Zhang knows who he wants after beating down Joyce, saying he will go down.
Could you imagine if Zhilei Zhang continues on this hot streak and manages to galvanize the fight fans in China, one of the most densely populated nations on the planet?
The kind of money he could make in his native China, the kind of marquee value that could represent in theory. Zhilei Zhang wants Tyson Fury, and he wants Tyson Fury in China.
China's no third world country, you know. They've got a strong economy. They are an economic powerhouse these days.
So it's not an idea that you can easily put off on the premise that there's no money in China per se. China's doing just fine. They're doing all right. Though I suppose that because Tyson Fury would be the proverbial A-side in China, in spite of having a decent economy, they're not necessarily one of the bigger boxing markets in the sport of boxing. I don't think Tyson Fury would be open to the idea of boxing Zhilei Zhang in Zhilei Zhang's neck of the woods.
To be honest, I don't know that Tyson Fury would be open to boxing him anywhere. You see how he treated Alexander Usyk.
An unbeaten, two-division, former undisputed, current reigning unified champion. You see how he treated that guy. How would he treat Zhang?
It's a legitimate question.
I wasn't 100% targeting Joe's eye area. I was targeting his chin. I wanted to test his chin, but it went to his eye. So that's what happened. Fury, he doesn't have that chin. He will go down, and he has gone down several times at the hands of lighter punchers, much lighter punchers than Zhilei Zhang.
No, I'm not talking about all those knockdowns in Wilder trilogy. Not those. The ones before that. The knockdown at the hands of the very unheralded Nevin Pajcik, and the knockdown at the hands of Steve Cunningham, a cruiserweight.
You don't need to be the biggest puncher to knock Tyson Fury down. And these unbeaten fighters and their selective matchmaking, the fact that they don't take on all comers, it confuses people and fools them into thinking that any one of these guys are invincible when none of them are.
Not a one.
There are some interesting factors in association with a Fury versus Zhang fight that are worth some consideration. Zhilei Zhang is a southpaw like Otto Wallin was a southpaw, and we saw all the issues that Otto Wallin gave Tyson Fury. That gruesome cut that if he weren't Tyson Fury, if he were any other fighter not named Tyson Fury, would have got the fight stopped.
Stopped on cuts. I've seen fights stopped for less than what was on the side of Tyson Fury's face.
Zhilei Zhang, coming from a great amateur background, being as big and physically imposing as he is, as far as heavyweights go, Zhang is on the bigger end of the spectrum.
The bigger and heavier end of the spectrum.
Yeah, it might be harder for Tyson Fury to put distance between himself and a guy that size.
If the question is, does Zhilei Zhang bring anything to the table that Tyson Fury should have to worry about, the answer is yes, he does.
But I'm not convinced that Tyson Fury's gonna roll the dice with Zhilei Zhang, given what happened to Joyce for rolling the dice with Zhang. There are already rumors and talks of a potential Andy Ruiz fight for Tyson Fury this summer. I'd sooner expect Tyson to go with Andy than go with Zhilei Zhang.
The Andy Ruiz fight is a much more winnable fight for Tyson Fury than Zhang.
Styles make fights, and Tyson Fury's style is all wrong for Andy Ruiz.
They know that. That's why they're looking at him.
Maybe we get Zhang versus Chisora on the undercard of Fury versus Ruiz. Maybe that's how that cookie crumbles.
Maybe, because I'm not expecting Fury to actually fight this guy.
Not willingly.